morning, Shirley. Today we're going to chat about bad homeschool days. We all have them, and the longer that you've been homeschooling, I think the better you become at anticipating them, which is, I think, always the problem. When we don't expect a day to go that way, it throws us a curveball. But I thought I'd throw it open to you first, and you can explain some of the things that came in and interrupted your days that would classify them as a bad day.
Okay, I think the thing is that every homeschool mom needs to realize that we all have bad days. And teachers in classrooms also have bad days, and that we shouldn't beat ourselves up more than we should if you do have a day that doesn't turn out as you planned. And that's actually normally what goes wrong. You have this plan in your head of what you think you should accomplish and need to accomplish, and you imagine all sorts of people, imaginary people like mothers-in-laws and school teachers and people looking over your shoulder and checking that you're doing what you imagine is the ideal homeschool day. And then life happens and you get interrupted and you don't accomplish those things, which are normally very book and very schoolish orientated type of tasks. And you forget to look at the bigger picture and see that often those interruptions are priceless lessons. They're so valuable. They're teaching your children other things and even teaching you other things that you don't find in the pages of textbooks. And it's things like how to deal with a crisis. You know, suddenly the washing machine's leaking water all over the place and mom's got to deal with this. Or it's a toddler that suddenly had a packet of cocoa powder explode all over them. We had that one day, you know, and suddenly you've got to drop everything and deal with whatever's going on in the house. Or it's people from outside coming in with their crisis, and it's quickly do this or phone that or type this for me. I used to have my husband working from home, and often I would have to do admin tasks for him, and it was urgent. And things like that just happen, and then everything you planned feels like it's not happening.
Yeah.
And that's just normal. If a person knows that this is part of life and our children are watching and seeing how we cope, then you can give yourself grace. What happened to you with your bunch, Wendy?
Well, I was just going to say, I think we can finish there because you kind of summed it all up. but it's exactly that, and learning that the curveballs that come are the lessons. You know, we had a chat before with our multiple grade homeschooling where we spoke about how the baby becomes the lesson. It's the same thing. You know, in life, when you go to work, you're going to have curveballs. When you have your own family one day, you're going to have curveballs. And these are the things that we need to teach our children, and that we're in this wonderful position to do that. So we need to reframe our thinking. Instead of, you know, tying ourselves up in knots about, oh, all the worksheets that didn't get done or whatever, just to realize that I can take this and I can use this as a life skill that will carry my children through their adult years. I found it was important to diffuse them. So we've identified that they happen and that we need to expect them as a mum. But it is important to diffuse them the best way that we can. And if that means that we send our kids off to go and play together and say, we'll regroup in a bit. If it means that we're all at loggerheads with each other, let's go out into the garden, let's go and do some nature study. In Johannesburg, we used to live right next door to a beautiful green belt before we moved here. And we used to just stop, put the books down if it was just too much with a baby and a toddler and, you know, 2 kids in primary school, and pack a bag with storybooks and arts and crafts and binoculars and go and sit on the green belt under the willow tree. And you come back an hour later and everybody has kind of just decompressed. Did you have any techniques?
I like that idea of what you said, and I want to sum it up with a little tagline: if all else fails, just go and read a book. You know, I just feel we can never read too much to our children, and it's something we generally all enjoy. And you can read through a kid who's fidgety or not concentrating. You know, they'll normally catch on to that story, and everybody, like you say, it just takes the whole atmosphere down a notch. Obviously, if there are discipline issues in the home, you have to stop and address those. And again, that becomes the learning opportunity, not the maths that they don't want to do. and the bad attitude that they're manifesting. So you deal with the attitude and behavior, or two siblings squabbling, you deal with that, and that becomes the lesson. And if the lesson in the book remains undone and they've got to catch it up another day, that's also a lesson. And you don't, as I keep saying, you don't beat yourself up. You just mark it off as a change of plan, a change of the lessons, and you start to look at things with a different perspective.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and the thing is that being in a homeschool environment, sure, we're the ones that make our schedules, and sometimes they become those taskmasters that don't give you the freedom to stop. But learning to do that is so important. But we have the privilege of doing 3 days work on one day, and on a bad day, packing up the books and saying, we'll catch it up sometime. When children are sick, that's one of the beauties of a literature-based curriculum. And when kids are sick, you can still climb into the bed like I used to do next to them and read their stories. There's no such thing as a, absentee day in homeschooling. There's always something to do and always something to learn. And I think it's the grace with which we carry ourselves through those tough days that our children learn from, more than us standing over them with a rod, making them complete a page when everybody is emotionally dysregulated and just not into the school day. And so to sum it up, Shirley, what would your best little bit of advice be to a mom who's facing bad days?
I think the other thing is that, like I said at the beginning, we all have bad days. But the difference between a mom and a school teacher, in my experience, is that as a mom, I've gone and apologized to my kids on days when I've lost my cool. But I can't ever remember a teacher doing that.
Yeah.
And that makes such a big difference when you do just lose your cool and blow up a little bit emotionally, that you can keep on building that relationship with your kids. But to sum it up, if you know that bad days happen and there are other lessons to learn from them, you can actually see them as something that's good. And and don't let them unravel you.
Absolutely. Well, that was wonderful, and I do hope it brings our viewers lots of encouragement. Nice chatting, Shirley.